Hey, Coach. How you doing? Hey, Coach. I know it's such a different season than every other, but 42 games in of a 72 game season. Can you draw on any your past seasons when I know to compare where you might be at? I know obviously the personnel changes, but do you draw on past seasons?
We've never been like this from the standpoint of just the lack of consistency of lineup since maybe my second year when we had all those trades in the first part of the season. And, it's just been availability wise. So in a lot of ways, I feel like, obviously we don't have much time left when you look at it from a big picture standpoint. And I'm hopeful that, we can get better, and peak at the right time. I mean, I think that that's ultimately our challenge and our task with the way that the season started and, with our inconsistencies. And so, there's every season. I mean, we started 19-19 one year and ended up with 48 wins. We've, been 13-13 and the same thing. But, each season's a little bit different, and this one's unlike any of those. And we're further along in this season and really haven't started separating ourselves by any means. And so games like this are an unbelievable opportunity to play against one of the best teams in the league, do so in consecutive games, and, challenge that idea of growth, because that's going to be really important if we want to, again, keep peaking at the very end.
Eric, name.
Hey, Brad. I know the first game of the season was a long time ago. You guys look different. The Bucks look different. But just what did you get as the feel for how Drew Holiday has changed this team and makes them different in some way this season?
Well, you could feel it on the court in the first game, but I think obviously it's gotten even better. And you might have seen the impact as much as anything when he wasn't available, right? I mean, I think that the way that he can play on both ends of the floor, he's obviously a physical guard. He can drive the ball, he shoots it, he creates separation to shoot it, finishes. He's a great cutter. That's something that people don't talk about enough, and that's huge with Giannis's ability to pass both in isolation and in post, and made Drew an even more seamless fit, in my opinion, when this trade first happened. And then on the other end, he's elite. And so, we don't use that word loosely. I mean, I think he's one of the best defenders in the league. And I think that, you know that just from watching it, but you know it even more when you hear players talking about it. And when you hear some of the best players talk about him, he's, very well respected in every which way.
I'm curious, since you've seen the Bucks a little bit more, they're putting him in the dunker spot a lot. They always have someone in the dunker this year. How has that changed how you guys try to defend them?
Well, they at the first part of the year, they were mixing up who was there. It was really the first person down the floor. I've always had great admiration for Bud's continuities that he runs in transition. I think his secondary offenses have always been creative, maybe a step ahead. As the year goes on, he morphs that. So you've seen that a little bit, certainly here in the last few games. But with a guy like Lopez that gives you the ability to shoot, it just changes who your usual help, right? And I think, again, Bud was, in a lot of ways, I thought took a very kind of basic NBA system that a lot of teams did and made it 5 out with his own creativity a few years ago. This year, he's added more of the dunker spacing with guards, with, maybe a non-traditional position, which again puts a guard puts a guard at the rim that decides whether they're going to help up on drives, whatever the case may be. But it also takes your 5-man, if he's guarding Lopez, and puts him on the perimeter. Bud's really creative. They're really creative about then recognizing if you switch that up to try to have your big closer to the rim and then taking advantage of it in other ways.
Gary Washburn.
Hey, Brad. I know this might not be the perfect time to run into Milwaukee, but is it good to kind of have a 2-game series like this to kind of figure out where you guys are at and do you have a discussion with the guys about the deadline coming up? And I don't know if you've been asked this, but and that you could be a different team Friday than you are tonight?
First question, I think it's always good, Gary. Like, this season has not been perfect. We didn't expect it to be perfect, and we certainly could sit here and talk about just how challenging it's been, and how challenging it's been for us to find any level of good play, right? So I think anytime you're playing them, we can't get caught up in where we've been, what's been done up to this point. We've got to be caught up in playing good basketball. We've shown snippets of that recently. I'm encouraged by our last 2 games, and so I'm hopeful that we play well again. That said, with the trade deadline coming up, I think really took the time to talk a little bit about just kind of what's real and what's not, and when I say that, like, I talked about it a little bit on my radio show today, like how to address some discussion about Tristan as a teammate. It's not real. Like, and I think that, guys that have been in the league, you hear rumors all the time, you react to whatever's put on social media, that gets, gassed up and becomes something that, guys can react to negatively. And the older guys that have been in the league just kind of realize that they've been through a lot of these, and, most of the time it's nothing. And so, yes, there's the reality that we can make changes. Yes, there's a reality that anybody could, but also we don't overreact to the rumors. And I get it. The way that the media works, the way that social media works. I understand how things get accelerated and how it becomes more of an entertainment thing than necessarily all based in reality. But it's not our job to get caught up in that. Our job is to kind of stay in reality, do our job as well as we can. If something then happens, then react accordingly.
Last couple of questions. We'll go to John Corrales.
Brad, I just wanted to check on how Jayson Tatum was feeling and just see if it was still just Tristan and Romeo out tonight.
Just Tristan and Romeo out. Jason's feeling a lot better. We landed in Milwaukee last night, came to the gym and shot, did some optional shooting, felt a lot better. Good to go today.
Chris Gasper.
Hey, Brad. Speaking of Jayson, I had a question for you. His ISO percentage right now is 19.1%. That's the 6th highest in the league. And on those ISOs, he's shooting 35.7% according to NBA stats. Have you had any discussion with him about maybe finding a different way to take advantage of his matchup? Because almost any matchup with him, obviously, he must feel is a mismatch because he's such a great scorer. But at the same time, the efficiency on those isolations has just not been there this year.
Yeah, I think, obviously, Chris, percentages can rise and fall a little bit with sample sizes. You know that. But we've had, as a team, really, as we enter the break, 4 games, 5 games before the break, we really have tried to emphasize more movement, playing off cutting by getting the ball through our bigs. And even if that's late clock, we want to do that more. If you really go back and look at the last 11 games or so, we've had a couple of bad offensive games in that stretch overall, shooting wise. But the shots we've generated have been much better. The offensive numbers have been much better. And it's more of a team thing that we've discussed it than in an individual way. Jayson is really committed to doing whatever it takes to win. Like he wants to win. He is a competitive guy. And he doesn't, and I've told him many times that, what we want you to do is be aggressive on the catch and shoot because he's such a special shooter. But he's always been used to just being able to put the ball on the floor, catch it where he wants, and get to where he wants to go. So there's a little transition. And, over time, I think with the cutting and with the just simply catch and shooting, I think that everybody's efficiency will rise, and certainly his will as well. But this is part of the adjustment of being one of the guys without, that they are really targeting and really lasered in on. It's much harder to score on isolation when you're guarded by the best guy every night. It's happened to him, often over the past couple of years. It certainly, bounces back and forth with him and Jalen. But, that's an adjustment for guys.
All right, we'll wrap it up right there. Thanks, Coach.